Today is March 29th and my group and I are taking a class, Bermudian literature, which is taught by Dr. Angela Barry. In my group are Gillard Smith, Zarina Lindsay, and Ayana Bean, and myself, Shayla Hassel.
Located on the left-hand side of the room is a wooden framed glass case. It contains a photograph of Sarah Hinson, Brian Burland's nanny, and Rosamond, his sister. Awards for literary contributions and achievements from the Bermuda Arts Council in 2001 and 2008, a Lifetime Achievement Award that Brian Burland received in 1994, a book of poetry, and 7 of his published books, all displayed atop a white matted cloth. Here is a bust of Brian Burland, located in the corner to the left of the room. It sits on a wooden post that is on a white column. Next is the Brian Burland mural, painted by Graham Foster, who is best known for his huge mural, The Hall of History, located at the National Museum of Bermuda in Dockyard. Graham has been a professional artist since 1995 and is an alumni of Bermuda College. His style has been described as following one of 2 directions. One, inspired by Bermuda's flora, fauna, architecture, and people that he renders in a uniquely surreal way. The other style is looser, more expressionistic, and is often influenced by dreams and the subconscious. He was commissioned to paint this mural to illustrate the writings of Brian Burland. As this is a reading room, located in the center of the room is a table along with 8 chairs for students and researchers alike. There is also a computer and 4 photographs of Brian Burland, one of which features Ronald Lightbourne.
Okay, so this is Giles Beveridge. He is the nephew of Brian Burland, and today we're going to interview him and ask him a couple questions about his experiences and interactions with his uncle. So here we go.
And I can't read without my glasses. Nice to meet you, audience.
First up, how would you describe your family relationship between yourself and your uncle Brian Burland?
Right, okay, he was one of my mother's 3 brothers.
Okay.
So we had an uncle here that ran a construction company, and Uncle Brian lived in America most of the time.
Okay.
As he got older, he came back here more often, but he found it easier to write about Bermuda when he wasn't here.
Interesting.
When he did come back, I first met him in 1981 in Bermuda, and there was lots of parties going on, so I just saw him at a distance, and he was keeping very busy, very sociable person.
How would you describe the family dynamics between your uncle Brian Burland and your immediate family?
Okay. Well, it was a fascinating array of siblings who were all different.
Okay.
So Brian was the creative one. And my mother, I guess, is following him a bit now. She's 87 and she's doing her memoirs.
Nice.
But she wanted to let him do the creating. And then the other 2 brothers were businessmen, so they didn't really understand the novels, or I think they probably read 1 or 2 of them each.
Okay.
And I also put that my grandmother didn't seem to understand him at all.
So they didn't get along much, or?
I wouldn't say they didn't get on, they just couldn't understand each other, they were just so different. Whereas my grandfather was more like him, I think. And my sad story is he died 9 years before I was born, so I didn't meet my grandfather at all, which was a shame. Yeah.
Can you recall any of Brian Burland's inspirations that he used to write his novels? I know you said he preferred to write about Bermuda when he wasn't here.
Yes.
Do you recall anything else?
I thought about this, and I think his 9 novels are all different. I think the 2 popular ones for Angela Barry are The Sailor and the Fox and Surprise.
Okay.
So he felt very deeply towards the racial injustices of the history and the racial injustices in Bermuda. And I think some people just pretended they didn't exist. And so Uncle Brian got more passionate about what he wrote because he didn't agree with these people. He wrote a book about his family called A Few Flowers for St. George.
Okay.
And I always thought St. George was his father. And then I remembered that Brian was born on St. George's Day.
Oh.
So I think it's a case of the novelist just sort of mixing things up a bit and producing a work of art.
Right.
And we analytical types can't really go in there and say, well, is it your dad or is it you? Because it's probably everything. And the other one, well, that I identified most strongly with was A Fall from Aloft.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's his experiences in a British boarding school.
Okay.
And the people that he went to school with were so bad they couldn't even, they kept calling it Berluta, B-E-R-L-U-T-A. They couldn't even figure out the name of one of Britain's colonies, which was sad. And he had a much harder degree with these boarding schools than I did because they plonked him on a boat in rough seas and there was a war going on.
Oh, really?
So I don't know if we might have something here.
It's right up there in the left-hand corner.
Yeah, okay. That is his Fall from Aloft experiences. And I can say that the graveyard as you get to Dockyard on the right, there's a massive graveyard with loads of tombstones. Yeah. One of the inscriptions there says that somebody was killed by a fall from aloft. So that inspired the book. But me as a 9-year-old looked at that book and thought, oh, a fall from aloft, it meant somebody fell out of the attic.
Right.
Because a loft is an attic. No. From that graveyard.
As a whole, how would you describe your uncle's personality?
He's, I would say, a character really. He was very kind, very amusing, very gregarious. He's very good at seeing through people.
Okay.
Which I got quite a kick out of because there were a few people in my childhood that were a bit odd and Brian saw right through them. He could be difficult. He liked getting his own way. And try and think of something. No, most of the time he was amenable.
Okay.
But my sister and I went to visit him in Connecticut when we were probably about your age, all of your ages.
Mm-hmm.
And he was quite upset and said we messed him up because we changed the date on him. So that was a bit of a surprise, but he still entertained us.
Are you yourself familiar with the Baha'i faith?
Yes. It's a peaceful faith. They worship Baha'u'llah. It came out of Haifa in Israel. Can I try note? Because that was one of the ones that I was hesitating on. Okay. Yeah, Uncle Brian and his wife were one of the first Baha'is, and I actually went on in Bermuda.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually went on a date with a Baha'i lady once, but it was just one date, so we weren't. Nothing grew.
That's fair. Also, can you elaborate on any social interactions Brian had with any women in his life, including his mother?
Okay, that's a bit tricky because I was quite young growing up. I think he had a lot of girlfriends. He had his first wife. She had 3 children by her. Then he had another wife who he says was his favourite. Then a third wife, and then he went back to his second wife. So he was married 4 times to 3 women. And what else did I put about that? No, I can't find it. Yeah, I put that I didn't think his interactions were very shallow. They were always deep friendships, and some led to marriage and some just fizzled out.
Understood.
Yeah.
Can you name anything else that you find unique about your uncle?
Oh yeah, plenty. Okay, he was, there was a bit of a tangle with him and his older brother, who both lived in Bermuda for the last 20 years. Uncle John was quite generous as well, but very practical, very businesslike, and Uncle Brian didn't have a streak of practical in his body, but highly creative and I guess far more charismatic. And to Uncle John's horror, when he got over Uncle Brian stacking the fridge so full of root beer that nobody could put any other food in it, Uncle Brian just came in one day and said that he wasn't coming in because he didn't feel like it. And that was really the end of the business relationship. I think at that point he turned himself to his books, which seems to be where he fitted in anyway. Yeah.
Was there anything that you recall that you disliked about your uncle at any time?
I suppose just the difficult streak where he liked to get his own way. But I was very good at... I think when you've got a personality of that type and you're one of his children, it's a lot harder to get anywhere with somebody like that. But if you're his nephew,
Yeah.
I never had any problems because I just said, all right, enough of that. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah. Anything that you remember about his appearance as well?
His appearance was always good. He took a lot of trouble. He'd wear the right clothes, the right coloured clothes, cotton clothes, comfortable clothes. I never saw him in a suit. Maybe a corduroy jacket once or twice. He developed a habit as he got older of carrying everything around with him in a portfolio.
Okay.
So we used to go to various restaurants, and then the last 4 years that he was here, it got quite difficult because I was on a motorbike and he'd ride on the back of the motorbike with all the paraphernalia. So never mind that, I feel like that guy who was reversing down North Shore into a gas station sometimes. Because it didn't feel very coordinated.
Yeah. Is there anything that you wanted to know about your uncle that you never found out?
I think the clue there was some of these books.
Okay.
If he was looking at me in that bust again, I would say, well, who was St. George?
Right.
See if he mentioned his birthday or see if he mentioned his dad or somebody else. But yeah, it just gets to a point where we ask them when they're around and they don't tell us everything, and we don't like to ask too much. So yeah, I'd start all those questions again, I think. Find out more.
Where is Brian Burland's resting place, final resting place?
Over there, St. Paul's Church in Paget.
Okay.
Yeah, he's actually near the road. He was going to be buried further inward, but we found a family grave that was a bit further but towards the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there something that you anticipated or expected when you saw him?
Yeah, hunger. Let's eat.
Okay. Why is that?
He liked his food, not to an extent where he ate too much, but I think food was a part of him. So yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we have here today.
Yeah, I've got a few
Extras that you like to share?
extras. I'm just looking for them though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had his Atlantic crossing and the fall from aloft, which I empathise strongly with.
Yeah.
But also, I think the Sailor and the Fox, his, some of the personal bits, the pornographic bits, would just creep in and then creep out again. And that was very intriguing. Yeah, okay. I don't know if you guys heard about his 1940s, when he wanted to fit in with everybody, he joined a cricket team. And he got total acceptance from his teammates and humour. And it was a marvellous story because one day he just heard somebody whispering, "Who's this guy with all the colour washed off him?" And it really was, in those days, frowned upon to try and mix with people who aren't exactly like you, but I took my hat off to him for that. And it was just great the way it was so harmonious. and he's a cricket player as well. And I don't think any other family members really managed to come close to their sports ability with that. Oh yeah, I was also going to say his house in Essex, Connecticut was quite large, probably big enough for, I must have been big enough for his 3 children and his wife. But he used to retreat into a studio about 8 feet square. So if you can imagine, it was half the size of this room.
Yeah.
And he would sit there for three quarters of the day, religiously 3/4 of the day. He would not miss a day with his books. Somebody ran into the back of his car on the motorway. And I said, well, who did that? And he said, oh, this lady wasn't looking where she was going, but she was extremely attractive. So here he was wandering around with his neck and his back, and he's still thinking about women. So yeah, that's just about everything I had really.